Last time, you saw us finish the installation of our deck hardware, even though we royally screwed it up. Stick around to see why we did all that work. Hello, Moneypenny fans. Once again, sorry about the length of time it's been since I last spoke to you. You're probably now figuring out I'm not one of those once a week kind of channels. Bit of an update on what happened since the last time we spoke. The good folks at Kugels did not pick up on my subtle hint and have not sponsored my channel yet. So in a vain bit of self-promotion, I am now self-sponsoring the channel and also hoping that maybe the nice folks over in Colorado might send us a case of beer. It's very nice, this Coors Light, and it's low calorie too. Low calorie, low carb, it's something. I don't know, it's good though. Alright, so last time you saw us, we were messing around with all of our new deck hardware, new winches, big new bank of clutches, new deck organizers. Idea being, we wanted to run all of our control lines back to the cockpit so that we could do everything from right here. Question is, why did we want to do that? Since we last spoke, we've got everything rigged up and ready to go. We've got control lines on this side of the deck, control lines on the other side of the deck. Brings me back to that question. Why did we do this? And what does all this stuff control? The reason behind this rather extravagant set of updates was because I wanted to have single line reefing. Now, some people's idea and sort of definition of single line reefing varies. Some people think that means you have one line going from the leech kringle down to a cheek block on the boom forward to a cleat somewhere, and then you put the luff kringle onto a reefing hook at the gooseneck. That takes care of it. Well, technically that is single line reefing because you only have one line. My idea was that I wanted to be able to reef the sail completely by only using one line. So I wanted to have one line that I can tighten that will reef both the luff and the leech. And that's why we did this. Now, in fairness to the people who call what we just described single line reefing, they're not wrong. So maybe we need to call what we're trying to do continuous line reefing. So here's the plan, here's what we want to happen. Our reef line will be fixed to a point on the boom. It will then run up to the first reef kringle and then run back down through the kringle to the other side of the sail to a cheek block, where it will then run along the boom and then run up the outside of the sail through the kringle and then down to a fair lead on the mast. From the fair lead it goes down to the turning block on the deck. From the turning block it goes to the deck organizer, and from the deck organizer it comes back via the clutches to the winch. So the idea being, when you pull the end of this line right here, that both luff and leech snug down and you end up with a slab reef in your mainsail. Now we're going one step further because we have two reef points in our sail, so we're also looking to put a second line in which will effectively do the same thing, go down to a fair lead, down to another turning block, down to the deck organizer, back to the clutches and back to the winch. Okay, so let's see how this looks in practice. Right here on the boom you'll see we have these jam cleats. If there was a huge amount of tension, that meant that this rear kringle on the leech could not really tighten down. We have the option to be able to raise the boom with the topping lift and then really crank this down through the jam cleat. So we can adjust from both ends of this line. When we follow up, you've got the blue line and the green line. Green line is reef 2, blue line is reef 1. These aren't normally this long, I've just left them kind of hanging out so we can see. So as you can see, the lines go up to their respective cringles on the leech of the sail. Somehow try and navigate my way to the other side of the boat without falling in. There we go. They come through the cringles and then they come down the sail to cheek blocks on the boom. Walking forward, you can see that each line is led through fair leads right here to move them forward. You can see with the second reef point line, we had to go up and over the boom hardware for the main sheet. So these lines run all the way up the boom. Here we go, through fair leads until we get to a double cheek block. At this point they both turn and run up the luff of the sail. There you can see the blue one diving through the cringle. The green one keeps going up to the second reef point. If we come around and over to the other side of the sail, over here, we can see that the green one comes out, blue one comes out, reef 1, reef 2, and they both run down the mast and go through these two turning blocks right here. Fair leads, I'm sorry, right there. We carry on down to the new blocks that we fit in. You can see we've got reef 1, reef 2. This white one here is the outhaul, and this is the vang. We'll talk about those another time. And then we run down to the deck organizer, and then they spin around just like that. And then we run down the deck to the clutches, and with a winch right behind them. So that's how the setup works. The question now is, how does reefing work? It is stiflingly warm in Chicago today. There's no air in the harbour. I am not complaining because in about 6 months, this will all be ice. So, continuous line reefing. Let's go back and talk about that. There is a huge amount of stuff written about this. I've done a ton of research into this. The general consensus is that it doesn't work. The amount of friction that the continuous line experiences is too high. You need to have blocks all over the sails, and you know, to retrofit it is a huge pain in the rear quarters. The smart money says that to make this work you need to have something like a Selden boom, which has the shuttle inside it, and you have lines going to blocks inside the mast, and it really reduces the friction, and you know, it just pops down. It's a great system. The Selden boom is a great system, and if this boat was valuable and worth more money and I could afford it, I would absolutely buy one. They're fantastic. However, we can't afford to do that. So the big question now is, having done this, having researched it, having tried to figure it out, does it work?
The process for reefing the sail is the same as any other. Step 1, ease the main halyard, drop the sail down to somewhere around the first reef point. Next step is to take the tension off the vang and then load up the reefing line onto your cabin top winch. Then all you have to do is to grind away until you get the luff and the leech cringle nice and tight down onto the boom. With that done, you can then retension the main halyard, retension the vang, and sheet and trim your sail. And because we have 2 reef points, it's not a bad idea just to take in some of the slack on the second reef, keep everything nice and tidy, stop everything getting tied up. Like I said earlier, if it's not perfect and the leech isn't super tight to the boom, we can just raise the topping lift and crank down through that jam cleat, get it nice and tight. The process of putting the second reef in is exactly the same. Ease the main halyard to lower the sail, ease the vang, load the second reefing line onto the cabin top winch and grind away. And if it gets to be too much like hard work, raise the boom with the topping lift to make it a little bit easier to get the leech kringle nice and tight onto the boom.
Well, very unfortunately the GoPro battery shut off just as I was winding in and finishing up the second reef. But there she is, she's in. Main halyard could be goosed up a little bit, but she's in, she's good. Now, is it easy? No, I'm a little out of puff. I'm also not the fittest bloke in the world. But I was able to put 2 reefs in the sail without having to leave the cockpit. Yes, there is some friction. Yes, it's not the simplest thing in the world to do. Yes, I had to give the winch some pretty serious muscle, but I also only have a 1-speed winch on the cabin top, so there's that as well. Now, it's easy to do here, tied up in our lovely little slip. The question is, does it work in a little bit of weather offshore?
To test the theory in anger, we poked out for the afternoon. It was a little bit more spicy than I was expecting, so you'll forgive me for not actually filming putting the reef in, but I was a little preoccupied. Here you can see we're sailing along with 2 reefs in the headsail, 1 in the main, and we're making lovely progress doing it. Sorry we didn't get to film it this time. I will film it again, but I will tell you, it did work. So why not sit back and enjoy sailing for a couple of minutes, and we'll see you next time on Money Penny. Thanks for watching. Ta-da!
Hey, want you in my way. I want you in my way. I want you in my way. I say, what you want with me? What you want with me? What you want with me? Not sure that I understand. Man. go.